Will one of you finally give me what I desire? Yes, we will.
What's going on, guys? RBG here, bringing you another video on Marvel Spider-Man 2, a game that has many fans excited for its release, but has caused disappointment to fans who don't own the platform it'll be available on. This has been the topic of conversation on every video I posted pertaining to this game, so I want to explain why Spider-Man 2 will remain a PS5 exclusive, and why those who don't have the console shouldn't worry about it. Now, before we dive into today's topic, I want to remind you guys that this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. That's right, the greatest mobile game of all time is here, right on time for Christmas, and they come bearing a gift that's absolutely free to play. Some of my favorite things to do revolve around jumping into PvP battles to test out my new champion, and it's always exciting to unlock a new champion via summonings. Above all else, the bosses are just fun to fight, and the newest boss just released in Raid, and it's the biggest and craziest one yet. We got us a Hydra here, folks, which comes with different heads, each of which is a boss battle. It sounds crazy, so let's see what we're up against. Just to name a few, we have the head of Torment, which is the most terrifying of the Hydra heads, cause it's constantly applying true fear on all your teammates. And you have the head of Mischief, which loves your buffs and wants them all for itself. It targets the champion with the most buffs and then steals them and spreads those stolen buffs to all the other heads. You also have the head of Blight, which poisons you and protects itself with a poison cloud, which makes it super hard to hit. The head of Decay, which makes your team's healing actually lower their HP. The super angry head of Wrath, who weakens and provokes your team, and when you've hit it 15 times, it gets a new buff called Vengeance. And last but certainly not least, we have the main tank head, the head of Suffering, that brings a horrible new debuff called Pain Link, which causes your champions to take some damage whenever you try to attack it. It's a nightmare, man, so you're gonna need a few things to stop him. Between now and January 28, 2022, Raid's giving away a super limited edition champion to every player in the game, such as esports legend Simple. All you have to do is log in 7 days between now and January 28th, and he's yours. So you better get on it, because if you miss that date, you miss out on him forever. By clicking on the link that'll be at the top of the description or scanning my QR code, you'll get an epic champion Vergus, 200k silver, 1 energy refill and an XP boost, and 1 ancient shard so you can summon awesome champions as soon as you get in the game. All this treasure will be waiting for you right here. Once you're in, you can find me in-game under the name Random B Gamer, and if you're fast enough, you can join my clan. It's that easy, so hurry on over. Good luck, and I'll see you on the battlefield. So yeah, guys, a while back, Sony and Insomniac Games confirmed that Marvel Spider-Man 2 would be exclusive to the PS5 and wouldn't be coming to the PS4. Considering the fact that the game will be releasing at an undisclosed date in 2023, it sort of makes sense that it wouldn't be a cross-generation release, as developers will eventually transition away to producing games only for PS5. And Sony and Insomniac's partnership with Marvel Games won't be ending anytime soon, which was confirmed after they announced Wolverine. On one hand, this shows that the developers will undoubtedly deliver titles that will showcase the heroes in a light which gamers have never seen before. But on the other hand, PlayStation fans who own neither the base or digital PS5 will be able to play Marvel Spider-Man 2 when it releases. Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales was released for both the PS4 and the PS5 consoles last year. Being that it was a cross-generational game, fans on either generation of PlayStation could play through the title regardless of how powerful their machine was. This allowed early PS5 adopters to appreciate the next-gen capabilities, while PS4 owners weren't left behind. But that's no longer going to be a luxury the next time we get a new Spider-Man game from Sony, which I think is for the best. If you notice, there have been a lot of things that further justify why Sony shouldn't change their minds on their decision. We pretty much scratched off the explanation of them wanting to fully take advantage of the PS5's capabilities, but there are other facets to this that suggest that that's the only way to go. While Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales showed that the two separate versions could coexist under the PlayStation umbrella, it wasn't necessarily met with the same praise as its predecessor Marvel Spider-Man 1. Although Insomniac was able to give us new gameplay mechanics for Miles, along with a few visual enhancements via the PS5, many fans felt the title was too short to warrant the price of admission, which I believe was around $40 or so. If you avoided completing all the missions, it would take roughly around 5 to 6 hours to finish. But if you complete everything Spider-Man Miles Morales has to offer, it would take you around 15 hours. The reason being is that it requires you to replay the main story on New Game Plus, so you can hit level 30 and unlock every skill. That might sound like a reasonable enough runtime for some, but when you look at the runtime for the first Marvel Spider-Man game, which takes roughly around 17 hours if you speed through the game, you can sort of see why fans would be disappointed. Like, even if you go another round of Miles Morales and New Game Plus on top of that with the original full playthrough, it still doesn't average up to the strictly campaign-based playthrough of Marvel Spider-Man. And the reason why I think this game was so short, because there wasn't much else Insomniac could do. For one, they were already running on a more optimized version of the game engine they used to develop Marvel Spider-Man. While the graphical and performance upgrades were impressive, I'm pretty sure that's something that could have been way better if the game was only available on the PlayStation 5. When developers work on a cross-gen title, they have to find the right balance with the last-gen and next-gen versions, which ultimately means there are a lot of compromises that will negatively affect both versions. Usually last-gen versions of the cross-gen title tend to be less optimized on those systems, resulting in a game looking dull or underperforming. Just look at Cyberpunk 2077. That game is still struggling to run on the base PS4 and Xbox One, even after it's been given a ton of patches. Even if the next-gen version of a cross-gen title comes complete with little to no issues in terms of overall performance, you're still going to notice that the game looks structurally similar to its last-gen counterpart, especially if that said game just so happens to be a sequel or spin-off. In most cases, a follow-up cross-gen title is usually developed using assets from the previous installments, making the titles not feel that different from one another. Although Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales introduced new things like snow and the Harlem map, for the most part everything felt quite similar. And don't get me wrong, I'm not taking anything away from that title. Insomniac did an excellent job making that character and overall game distinctive enough from Peter's game, but I can't help but feel like those next-gen improvements weren't fully utilized, which was most likely due to the PS4. It just seems like Insomniac is constantly having to perform more legwork than they actually have to in order to make things work on the PlayStation 4, and it's obvious that they're getting tired of being limited by it. If you guys remember when it was announced that the No Way Home suits would be added to only Spider-Man Remastered, fans were outraged because they felt like Insomniac was being lazy, which is totally understandable because they continue releasing suits months and even years after the original PS4 version launched. Even though they initially planned for the two new suits and the Amazing suit to only be made available on the PlayStation 5 Remastered version, they ultimately caved in to fan demands and made them available on the PlayStation 4. But this time around, they stuck to their words, and apparently they had a valid reason to do so. According to Insomniac, the choice to not have these new cosmetics available on both the PlayStation platforms is due to an oversaturated amount of updates that already appear on the PlayStation 4 edition. Apparently, this wears on the streaming performance from PS4's hard drive, and the decision to give it to Marvel Spider-Man Remastered on PlayStation 5 alone is to ensure optimal performance for the PS4 users. But as you know, this cultivated major blowback from PS4 owners, with some suggesting that Insomniac's reason behind the move was all BS and not justifiable. Now, if you ask me, I'm on Insomniac's side here. Their track record is pretty solid with all the different things they've given us. They didn't even have to give us the 3 additional suits that were originally exclusive to the remaster, but they still did. So I trust that this decision was in fact a technical one. There have been some cases with a lot of games where a small patch or update pretty much caused titles that were once stable to glitch up. Coding anything into a game that's already seen its fair share of patches could risk breaking the entire foundation of that game, which I'm pretty sure Insomniac was trying to say. Like, these aren't just simple skins being added to Marvel Spider-Man. They actually come with a lot of details such as battle damage. So yeah, I gotta side with Insomniac when it comes to why they didn't add those suits to the PS4 version. Speaking of suits, I want to harp on a potential feature that could only be made possible on the PS5 for Marvel Spider-Man 2. A little while ago, there was an alleged leak posted on Reddit by an anonymous person claiming to be on the game's traversal team, and they mentioned that Insomniac would be adding all the suits from the previous game and giving them a black symbiote version. Which sounds plausible because, as you know, the upcoming sequel will feature Venom, and Peter will most likely be a host to the symbiote in one form or another. And having all those suits and whatever new additions they bring with their original color and a black variant can only be made possible by the next-gen hardware. You just know Insomniac is going to need to dedicate all their development time to the PlayStation 5 to pull off some of those insane things the symbiote can do. What's not to say Marvel Spider-Man 2 won't have a feature that allows players to switch out each black suit on the fly without having to pause the game. I don't think stuff like that would be possible if the game was on the PS4, let alone if it was a cross-gen title. Another thing which I'm 100% sure will be added to Spider-Man 2 is faster web swinging speeds, which this alleged leak suggests will be 1.7 to 1.8 times faster than the original speed you could achieve in Marvel Spider-Man 1. Although I thought the web swinging speeds in that in Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales were relatively fast, I felt they still paled in comparison to the speeds you could reach in Spider-Man 2 the movie game. And make no mistake, Insomniac could have easily reached those speeds or made Spider-Man move faster than that, but they had to take into account how that would affect the graphics. Environments in open world games are always loading in data depending on how close the player gets to certain locations. The developers had to put a lot of time and attention into things like draw distance and making sure certain details don't disappear, or in Spider-Man's case, certain pedestrians and cars don't disappear. If Spidey swings too fast, it could risk textures on building surfaces not rendering up, or even worse, the game might crash. But with the PS5's SSD technology, which boasts extremely fast load times, that problem would be non-existent. We've seen various examples from companies like Epic Games showcase how a character can move through open world environments at a rapid pace without compromising graphical fidelity. Of course, that was being done on something like the Unreal Engine 5, but I'm pretty sure Insomniac is going to take their proprietary game engine to the next level on the PS5, and Sony is going to put as much money as they need to put into that to make it happen. This will allow gamers to swing through the city of New York in lightning speeds without having to switch between something like fidelity or performance mode. But anyway, to conclude this video and assure naysayers why it's a good thing Marvel Spider-Man 2 is a PS5 exclusive is the release date. Although PS5s are still somewhat hard to come by, things have started to pick up in certain locations. More units have managed to be sold in retail stores. Not to mention Sony Entertainment has been going out of their way to personally invite PSN users via email to purchase a PS5 from their PS Store, which is how I ultimately got my console a few months ago. Marvel Spider-Man 2 releases in 2023, and if you ask me, I think PS5 units will be plentiful by then. I mean, Sony has already been working on a version of the console that cuts back on some of the things they used to make the original, so I think everybody should chill and not get so discouraged by Spider-Man 2 being a PS5 exclusive. But with that, I'm gonna end this video. What do you think about all this? Do you feel like making Spider-Man 2 a cross-gen title will prevent it from reaching its full potential on PS5? Or do you feel it's anti-consumer to not make it available on the PlayStation 4? Let me know down in the comments below. As always, I asked you like or dislike the video. It doesn't have to be a thumbs up, it can be a thumbs down. But if you really enjoyed it, I would appreciate it if you shared it with all your friends and followers on different social media outlets. Sharing really makes a difference. But this is your boy RBG signing out on another video. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.